Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sarah Fairclough, and I'm the Business Administrator for our Platform Solutions team here at Smart Simple. Today, we have Dan Eardley, who is our Senior Platform Solution Manager, joining us, who will be going over a couple of the key features from our November 2020 upgrade. Just a couple housekeeping items before we get started. We will be sending out a recording of this session to everyone who registered for the webinar today within about a week. It will also be posted on our Smart Simple YouTube channel as well as our Tribe page. Additionally, we are going to be hosting a Q&A session at the end of this session. Dan will be answering all of your questions, so please feel free to post questions throughout. We just won't be answering them till the end. And now I'm going to pass it over to Dan.
Thanks, Sarah. Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Eardley, as Sarah introduced me. I'm here to join you today to kind of dive a little bit deeper into a handful of the new features that have come out as a part of our November 2020 upgrade. So what we're going to be talking about today are these 4 features here. That said, if you do have questions later on and we have time about maybe other features you've seen related to what was released in the upgrade, happy to answer any questions to those as well. But our focus today is going to be on these. And so first, we're going to talk about our new proximity search capabilities, which are really expanding the ways that we can use geocoding and geomapping within the platform to be able to search for records based on distance to a specific location, as well as the new portal banners, a new way of easily creating banners on your portals that doesn't require as much sort of more technical know-how when building those portals. And then we'll also talk about the countdown timer, which is a new field type that you can use to present anywhere throughout your use of the platform to mark a countdown to a specific date and time. As well as giving you a preview of a new beta feature that we've released, something that we really haven't put a lot of news out there now about because it's just a beta feature at this point. But we've created a new structure, a new module within Platform 3 for a shopping cart. And so what we're using that shopping cart for, we're going to show some examples today on how that can expand our use and our capabilities within workplace giving, employee giving programs, donations to specific charities, but can actually be used for any type of process for sort of selecting a specific set of records or organizations or events, and then being able to add those to a cart and then be able to check out and potentially pay some sort of funds for what you are purchasing. So those are the items we're going to go through today. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just switch over to our demo. So what we're going to start with is we're going to start over on the proximity search side of things. So with proximity searching, like I said, you'll be able to you can search by any record based on distance, based on a longitude and latitude value related to that record. So what you're seeing on my screen right now is specific to an example from our Engage demo around volunteering. So for our volunteering program, you may want to have specific events and programs related to volunteering opportunities. And when we want to be able to search for those events, what we can now do is have a proximity searching function within the portal or within a module on the platform. And I'll show you that example in a second. But one key value is that you can now present it within a portal section. So in this case, we have a list view, and that list view is now using the new proximity searching capabilities. And we've also included other search criteria within the list view portal section. So people can search for specific events, maybe events that are serving a certain organization, searching date ranges, maybe who the event is good for, different values that are going to hone in on the records that are going to be pertinent and important to them. But you'll also be able to now search for records within a specific radius of your location. And so you can use your current location so that you can just take the current location based on your IP of your PC or your device that you're using to interact with the portal. But you can also specify, if I want to see locations and I put in a different zip code maybe than my own, then you'll be able to see the results that come up. And you can even use a very specific value. So let's say I want to search for everything within a distance of the Home Depot on 28th Street. So these are integrating with the Google Maps listing. So you can really pull up any address as a part of this proximity searching capability. So a new cool feature even within that. And we plan to expand the use of this Google integration to be able to use that elsewhere as well, so that when you're typing addresses, it can kind of help you in identifying the one that you're searching for. But let's say I'm searching for everything within 25 miles of my location. I'd be able to then search for that. In this case, I don't have anything. So maybe if I want to expand my search to a particular radius, then I'll be able to see the results that occur. And then once you select those records, you'll be able to see that record on the map. Let's say if I clear my search and then select this Making Clean Water one, which I think was in Iowa. Yep. You'll see it on the map pop up as soon as I select that. So as I jump down the map to different points, it'll bring that up on the map alongside it. And then when I click to open it, it'll direct me to that record so that I can see the details behind it. So that proximity searching can work really well for things like volunteering, or we'll talk about the donations process, and we use it there as well when we get to talking about the shopping cart. But the proximity searching can be used really universally in any capacity. It's just another attribute or setting related to a list view. So if I jump over to my sort of administrative view within our demo environment, and I go to that volunteering module to show you what we're talking about, it's just another list view that we've configured. So in this case, it was the employee portal event search list view. And if I select that, you'll see when I'm in that module within the platform, you can also interact and use the proximity searching capabilities. So you'll have that proximity search input alongside the search bar that you all are probably familiar with. So you could combine things like your advanced search that you're used to using along with a proximity search so that you can really hone in on a list of records, whether that be a list of records in a module such as this, or it could be a list of organizations or a list of contacts. You can use it anywhere throughout the system, wherever you're using a list view. So how that's being done is that you're within a list view settings. So if I go into navigate into the settings on this list view, it'll bring up the backend settings for the list view itself. And what you'll see now is a new tab under the settings for that list view that we've aptly named proximity search. So this is kind of taking the place of, if you were used to seeing the map panel setting in list views, we've now sort of combined that into this proximity search capability. So this kind of takes that quite a few steps further. So this sort of replaces that old setting. So you'll now have this new tab for proximity search, where if you want to enable that on a list view, all you have to do is turn on that toggle, and then you'll have some options for what address you're using for basing that proximity. So if you want to search for, let's say if you're searching for a list of grants and you want to see the grants based on the grantee organization, then you could simply select the affiliated organization, and then it would be able to search for those grants by the address of that organization. Or if you wanted to search by the owner of that record. So again, maybe using the grant example, maybe the applicant. So you want to search for a list of records based on the applicant's address, then you could use that as well. And then there's a third option to use, which is the UTA address. And so that gets a little bit more technical in a way that you can really sort of define unique addresses for a record and set up the mapping within the UTA settings to do the geomapping settings, which maps fields to specific address fields. So which field are you using for the address? Which field are you using for the city, the state, the country, the postal code, et cetera. And it uses those values as well as a unique longitude and latitude value to be able to then present the address that we want to see, and then use that for the proximity searching as well. So based on whatever you use as that address, you'll then be able to then set a default address for using for the proximity search. So do you want to use the current location, where you are, or a current user address, so the address on your profile, let's say, or your organization's profile. So again, different options and ways that you can use it based on whatever use case may be. And then in terms of the panel that shows up when someone clicks that marker on the map, you can define the fields that are going to show up on that panel so that you can really customize the content and what's going to be presented there to really make it unique and make it specific to the information that your users need to see when they're using that proximity search capability. So that's a little bit about proximity search. Really easy to set up for the most part. So you guys can do that within your own environments, create a new list view, just toggle that setting on and be able to play around and see if that's going to be something that's useful for you, and maybe locating organizations you work with within a particular area. And again, you can use whatever address you want to be able to specify how you're navigating throughout and which address you want to use as the point or anchor for that proximity search. So next up, we're going to be talking about portal banners. And when we talk about portal banners, just to kind of go back to our example when we were talking about volunteering here, you'll see that we have, this nice, really looking banner up at the top, and that, really has a nice visual appeal. We've really created a number of these throughout different pages based on, if you're really trying to be an engaging environment for your end users. So if it's something where you really want to have a nice visual appeal, then those banners can really be helpful. But in the past, previous to the November upgrade, it was a little bit harder to set those up. You might have needed to have a little bit more technical know-how in how you wanted to create those within your portals, how you wanted to present that content, have the text overlaid across that image. So if we wanted to set those up, it was a little bit more difficult. So we've made that a lot easier as a part of the banner section that we've now created as a part of the portals. So if I go back to one of our demo environments, I'm going to jump over to our Amplify demo environment, where you'll see that I've started on our portals page. So our list of portals that we have configured within this instance. And what we did is within our common portal that we've created, I created a new menu item. So the menu items, again, just as a reminder, are these top links that you'll see at the top of your portal. So we've created a new banner sample that would be added up here at the top. And you'll see for this new menu page, we've captioned it as banner sample, and we've set it as a theme to website, as well as using the sections as the content type. So that website theme is what gives you that full visual appeal from a portal display perspective. And what we've done now is we've created a new section type. So in the past, when you've created sections in your portals, you've had a whole series of different section types, list views, charts, media files, shortcuts. Many of you are familiar with all of those and seen those in different portals that we've configured or you've configured within your environment. But there's now a new section type called banner. And so when you use a banner section, you'll see some examples of how you want that content laid out. So it's a lot easier for you to be able to set that up without having to use any, let's say, HTML or CSS or any, sort of more technical language. And so you can define where you want the content aligned within your banner. And then we'll also provide a rich text editor to be able to enter the text that you want to include in addition to the header of that banner. And then you can add as many different buttons that you want to include underneath that content, so that if you want to include buttons to direct them to different destinations, you can add those here. And you'll see that when you add a button, you can simply give it a caption. And you might think, well, I don't know the URL to be able to insert the URL for where I want to take them. We also include this binocular lookup right here, so that when you select that, it helps guide you to the locations that you want to see. So maybe I want to have a button related to organizations, and maybe I want to have them edit their organization so that they can edit my organization. And when you apply that, then you'll have the URL automatically dumped in here. And so let's say I want to say my organization. So when we have that, we'll have two buttons, my contact profile and my organization's profile. So let's go ahead and save that. Now, the other aspect related to the banner sections is that you're going to need to have the image that you're going to be using. So all of that lives on the display tab for the section settings. And you'll see that you can upload a specific background image, and you can play with that depending on what images you want to use and the sizing and spacing and everything else. But bear in mind, and we include it, that there is a recommended pixel size and resolution for those files. And that's really just so that it renders well, that it's clear, and that if it's, in the case of the under 2 megabyte recommendation, if it's a larger file, sometimes it'll take longer for that page to load. So it'll be a poor user experience. So those are things that you just have to keep in mind when you're uploading the image that you're going to use. But then you can also define the overlay colors. The overlay is what's going to go over that image, so that if you want to add some sort of opaque overlay, so that it sort of provides a background, or I should say a foreground in front of it, for then the text to be overlaid, you can use that. And so you can do different color overlays, set the opacity of those overlays, and also set the font color for the text that's going to be in front of that. So ultimately what that allows you to do is then when you're setting these up, you'll be able to then go to that page and you'll be able to see the content behind it, you'll see that I added those 2 buttons now so that I had a variable here where I said @me.firstname@. What that does is it allows when the user goes to that page to dynamically render their name. So if it's another user named Sarah, then it'll say, welcome, Sarah. And so then this is the text that we included in that rich text editor, along with the buttons to be able to direct me down different paths. So you can really, it's an easier way for you to be able to set up more visual heavy portal sections. There's still ways to use the old approach using section containers and other content within the portals, and even doing more custom content within those. But we really wanted to make it easy for you to be able to set up these types of presentations within your portals. So if you're looking to, kind of spruce up your portals, have different content in there, this is another easy way for you to be able to do that and have something that's a little bit more dynamic. So next up is we're going to be talking about the countdown timer. I think a lot of people will find this really useful. It's a simple thing, but it can provide a lot of value in terms of, sort of user experience, especially for your external users. So I'm going to go to a draft application related to my grants here, and you'll see the presentation of this new field type. So it is just another new custom field type, and it allows you to specify and use a date and time using a date and time field on that record or on a related record. So you could even use it from, let's say, your program call or program cycle in your program manager. You can use a date and time field from that record so that it can just look to the program call and see what the deadline is, what's the due date for submitting their application. Or you could have a unique date and time field on that application itself that you've specified. So that's what I did in this case, where if I had a field where I set it over here within my more section and dates, you'll see I have a deadline date and time field. So that was a new field type that we actually created, probably about a year ago, where you can set not only a date within that field, but also specify a time within the same field. And by using that field in conjunction with the countdown timer, we can then have the countdown timer count down to the specific date and time. So just to kind of, show you the backend settings using that configuration mode to be able to show you what we're talking about here. So when we talk about that date and time field, it's just another custom field type. So you'll see text box, date and time. So you'll need to have one of those somewhere within your system related to this record. So again, might be on this application itself, or it might be, again, on a related module, such as that program cycle that this application might fall under. And then in conjunction with that, we'll have this new field type, the countdown timer. So you'll see that it's going to continue to count down to the specified date and time that I gave it. And so if I go into the settings for that field, you'll see that it's just another custom field type that we've added. So that's a new field type called display countdown timer. And so all you have to do within that is set that field type. You'll set permissions as you normally would. So who should see it, when and where, what roles have access to it. And then you'll have options within the field to specify when that countdown should occur. So do you want the countdown to occur to really only show the countdown itself 2 days before the deadline, 2 weeks before the deadline? So we give you some options there to play with, depending on how you want that to be messaged to that user. And then you'll specify the date and time field that you're going to use. So I'm using that deadline date and time that I had directly on the application. But you can have other things such as, the full proposal submission deadline that's, exists on that program cycle. So if you want to have it specified to that single date and time on that one place related to all the applications that fall under that, then that's a great use of that type of selection. And then you'll have different messaging that you can use. So you'll have a pre-countdown message. So think about that if it's before 30 days, so let's say it's 60 days till the deadline, then this message is what's going to show up on the actual form. And then once the countdown starts, so once we're within 30 days from the deadline, then we'll start to see this message within the field on the form for that record. And then once that date and time has been met, so once we've gone past that date and time, that deadline or due date, then we can specify a different post countdown message. So, due date has expired or the submission has closed, whatever messaging you want to include. So you can make your own unique messaging in there depending on what you're using that countdown timer for, and you can use it anywhere. So it could be, like we've said, on an application for a due date for submission, or it could be for a, let's say, a review record underneath that application, and you want to have a deadline timer for your reviewers. So you can use that in whatever capacity makes sense for you, but it provides sort of a new, unique way to present that content to the user so they can clearly see how much time they have remaining to complete that task. So lastly, we're going to give you guys a preview of what we were talking about in terms of the shopping cart feature. So the shopping cart feature, that primary use case we had in mind originally was related to employee giving, making donations through the platform, so that you can sort of have a single transaction for all of those donations. But you can also have, you can use the shopping cart feature to, let's say, if you have a series of events that you're tracking in the system, maybe that you're hosting, and you want people to purchase tables or tickets to those events, then the shopping cart flow can accommodate those things as well. It doesn't have to just be donations to a charity, let's say. So in terms of, as you go through that process, what you'll see in that shopping cart flow is you'll see if it's been permissioned accordingly, you'll have a shopping cart icon that shows up for the user within their portal. So in our example, we're doing donations to specific organizations or nonprofits. So we've sort of combined not only the shopping cart functionality, but also with the proximity searching, so that if I want to search for charities within 25 miles of my current location that we have set up within the system, then I can search for those, and then I can see Kids Food Basket is near me right here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I can either donate directly from the list, or I could go to their profile and open that up so that I can see their profile, see the details behind it, maybe learn a little bit more about them, and then choose if I want to donate to that organization. So you'll be able to configure what they see as they're adding things to their cart. So in our case, we've configured specific fields we want them to see, and then be able to say, okay, I'm going to add a $50 donation to Kids Food Basket. And then that's added to my cart, and we've numbered it up there accordingly. But let's say if I wanted to add additional donations, so it's not just a single contribution, let's say I'm going to give to the American Cancer Society here as well, then I'm going to give $100 to them. I can also add that to my cart. So what you'll see then under the shopping cart is they'll have a listing of each of those line items that you've added. You can remove them from there. You can edit your amounts. You can also see all of your past and pending orders from your activity within the system. But once you're ready to go ahead and check out, you can proceed to checkout. And today, at least sort of as this initial phase within the beta feature, we've only started from a credit card processing. In the near future, over the next few months, we're going to be rolling out other abilities related to PayPal and other payment methods, as well as functionality for payroll contributions and payroll deductions under sort of a traditional employee giving, workplace giving model. So in terms of right now, what we'll do is we have that credit card processing that's available, and we can proceed to payment. And then what this is using is it's using that same Stripe integration that we've used for years now within the platform, so that Stripe is that credit card payment provider, so that when someone enters in their details, they're entering it directly with Stripe. It's just manifested here within the page. And then once they put in their details for their order that they're going to be processing, they can go ahead and process their payment. And then we can take them to a confirmation screen so that we can indicate that their payment was successful, and then that can initiate and trigger confirmation emails and the like related to a traditional payment and donation process. So we're not going to go into all the weeds right now related to the shopping cart, how to configure and everything else, because it is still a little bit of a beta feature. And so we're still working out a number of things there. But that's something people can look forward to using in a variety of ways. And we can, if you have interest in that, or if you have a use case that you want to run past us, we'd be happy to talk to you about that as we continue to expand the use and capabilities of that particular feature. So with that, I think we can go to some questions.
Great, thanks so much, Dan. Yeah, like Dan said, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to post them now. It looks like we already have a couple. Can you specify the date and time for multiple time zones? So for example, if you have applicants applying from various time zones?
So the date and time is going to be, so the deadline date and time is sort of a specific deadline. You could have specific, that would be more related to workflows and how we operate that. So if you have a need for that, maybe if you want to reach out to us, we're going to show our contact information at the end. Maybe we can talk about a way to manage that. That deadline countdown timer, the countdown timer is specific to only to a specified date and time. So it wouldn't change dynamically depending on the user's location.
Great, thank you. Is there a limit to the number of items you can add to your shopping cart?
No, you can add as many as needed. And I think that's really the value and why we wanted to create this type of flow. Because in the past, we were more limited in terms of sort of having single transactions or using that in different ways. And so we wanted to make it really easy for people to be able to add multiple things to their cart and then go through one single checkout process. So especially if you're talking about a credit card contribution or payment, you want to have one checkout, one charge to your credit card, even though that might apply to multiple line items. So that's really sort of the thought process behind that.
Great, thanks, Dan. So it looks like that's currently all the questions we have. If anybody does have any other questions, though, please feel free to reach out to us either on Tribe or by email. We always love to hear from you and hear your feedback. Like we said earlier, we will be sending out a recording of this session. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be hearing from you soon.